Ever thought of finding gold with a metal detector before? Well, this time I'm going to be giving you the basically the operator's guide for the new gold bug tracker, but I'm going to be talking about other stuff that's relevant to any detector that you might have, especially a VLF, which most new guys purchase. We're going to talk about the basic concepts of nugget detecting, ground minerals, and how to use discrimination and when to use discrimination. So I've got this brand new gold bug tracker. Hey, it's a new detector by Fisher. It's based on the structure of the old Gold Bug Pro, but they've changed some things and honestly made it a lot easier for the new guy who wants to try and get involved with nugget detecting. But as is the case with a lot of new products, it comes out maybe not 100%. The detector itself is 100%, but they don't have, Fisher doesn't yet have an operator's manual, at least as I'm filming this, an operator's manual that I could refer you to take a look at. And, I think an operator's manual is important, and I'm sure they'll get one done. I don't know whether it'll be 2 weeks from the time I finish this, or 2 months, or, longer than a couple of months. They'll get it done, I'm sure, eventually, but I don't know when. So in the meantime, I'm going to give you guys a video version that tells you what you need to know about running this detector and how to succeed with it. So this is Chris Ralph's operations guide as to how to get the best performance out of your new detector. We're going to talk about what you can do to set your gold bug tracker up to find some nice nuggets. Now, why am I recommending this detector for new guys that, you see the high price of gold and you think, hey, I'd like to get into that nugget detecting and give it a try. And that makes perfect sense. You want to get into it. The price of gold is so high. The price that they're going to ask for this is about $300. And considering that, it'll only take maybe a little bit over a tenth of an ounce of gold, and you'll have paid for it. And I got to tell you, I had, 5 or 6 days last year where I found more than a tenth of an ounce of gold in just the one day. In fact, probably more like 7 or 8 days where I found more than a tenth of an ounce of gold just in one day. Now, I've got 40 years of experience. I was using more expensive, more powerful detectors than this, but I could go out and find a tenth of an ounce of gold with this. It wouldn't be that unusual to do. So it's a good detector. It's simple to use, simple to operate. And one of the things, it's only got 2 knobs on the control panel. So let's take a look at the control panel right now, and we'll talk about what those adjustments mean, what they do, the different functions of them, and how you can use it to get the most out of your detector. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the Gold Bug Tracker's control panel. There's really only a few things here. Like I say, part of the attractiveness for the new user is the simplicity of this thing, that it's easy to operate. And we're going to go over all the adjustments and all the screen readouts and what they mean right now. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the gain knob, the one on the left, and I've circled it here in green. When it's turned all the way to the left, that's how you turn it off. You'll get a little click there and it'll turn off. But once you turn it on, then this is my recommendation, okay? It's my recommendation. You may not hear this from everybody, but what I say is turn the gain all the way to the right till it stops, and then swing the coil over some bare ground without targets. And if the detector chirps and pops and makes a lot of noise, turn it down a little bit and then swing it again. And if it still chirps and pops, turn it down a little bit more and repeat that cycle until it gets to be fairly quiet. Now, one of the things you got to remember, this is a detector made for outdoor use. All right. It's not made for use indoors or underneath power lines. If you have power lines nearby or you're indoors, you're going to get that beeping and popping and a little bit of noise. It's not made to be indoors. And again, if you have to hunt near a power line,
then you're going to have to turn the gain down a little bit. You may have to turn it down quite a bit depending on how powerful the power line is, how much juice is in it, and how close you are to it. Now, one of the things, too, I want to say about the gain is that a lot of guys think of this, and I did at first, like the gain on your television. If you turn the television down to 1 out of 50, you're not even going to be able to hear it. And so you may assume that turning this gain down to just below turning it off, and just almost turning it off, but not quite, that you basically the thing will be at zero gain. And that's not true. There's like a basic minimum gain, and what you're doing with this knob is adding to the minimum. Now, you'll notice on the right, there's a little weird thing that has a frequency change and arrows that go up and down on the right there. And if you're hunting real close to somebody with a Gold Bug or Gold Bug Pro or one of these trackers, and you're right next to each other, you may hear interference from each other. And so you can turn this gain knob up to the top there where it's at the top of the loop. It's 60%, go from 100%, 60%, 100%. And if you do that real quickly, it will change the frequency. I don't think you'll ever need to use this. It's for an unusual situation. It certainly won't help if you're near a power line. But that's, I say, turn the gain all the way up. And then as you use it, if you have problems, turn it down a little bit. If you have problems still, turn it down a little bit. Don't try using it indoors because you're going to find that you have to turn it way, way down. It's not for indoor use. Or like I say, right next to power lines. So that tells you really what you need to know. And then all the way to the left, where it has the little power thing, is to turn it off. And when you turn it on, you start turning that thing to the right. So simple enough, the gain knob, that's all you need to know for that one. Okay, now the knob on the right. This is your discrimination knob. And it has a little nail picture at the bottom. And if you turn it all the way to the left, you're not using the discrimination. Now on this detector, you still get the target readout, like it says 65 on the screen. That's telling you what kind of target the detector thinks this is. And you still get that even if you turn it all the way to non-discriminate. What the discrimination does is it eliminates the target. So if you swing over it and you have the discrimination turned on substantially, like it shows there where it's turned, maybe till like 1 or 2 o'clock, then you're just not going to hear that that iron trash target. If you go over a bullet or whatever, something like that, something that's non-ferrous, a brass casing, a bullet, a piece of aluminum foil, something, you'll still hear, because that it's only discriminating out the ferrous type stuff. You'll hear the non-ferrous even if you have discrimination on and turned way up. The more you turn the discrimination up, you say, well, I don't want to hear those targets. Well, that's fine, but the more you turn the discrimination up, basically you're losing gain. You're costing yourself sensitivity. And that's why I would urge you, if you're nugget hunting, to turn it all the way to the left, to the side for non-discriminate. And there's a click. You can turn it all the way and then click. And okay, so you've got it off of discrimination. And then when you go over a ferrous target, you'll get readings. But I'm going to show you in a bit that you can look at the target ID and discriminate for your own self. In some cases, if you have super, super, super heavy trash, you may want to use the discrimination, but to miss the targets. But generally speaking, nugget detecting, you're going to want the sensitivity, and so you want to turn it to where you have the discrimination off. And that's my recommendations for that knob. Now let's take a look at what the screen reads out. So up in the upper left-hand corner, you've got a little battery, and 3 bars like it's showing is full charge. The second one shows that it's half charged, and then the last one shows that the charge is running out. And actually the one furthest to the left, the last charge that shows, it'll start blinking. And when you see that thing blinking, you've only got 5 or 10 minutes, and then the detector is going to shut down. So when it gets low enough, it's not going to function properly, and the detector will just shut itself down. I like rechargeable batteries. They recommend if you want to go with non-rechargeable that you must use alkaline type regular batteries. I like rechargeables, and for rechargeables, they recommend the nickel metal hydride. There are other things coming on the market, but the nickel metal hydride is what I use, and it's very available and easy to recharge. I usually carry two, so that because this thing uses one battery. So, if it, for whatever reason, I didn't charge it right or I forgot to charge it, well, when the first one runs out, I can always pop the second one in. So that's the battery. Next, the target ID readout. And you can see here it's reading out 65. And there's a little, curved graph above, and this just reads out the same thing. There's got the bars there, and it's showing that 65 about is what it's reading. Now, you'll notice in the bar graph up at the top that the number 40 has a darker, more bold numeration than the others. And then generally speaking, not without exceptions, but generally speaking, targets that are above 40 readout are going to be non-ferrous. Targets that are below 40 readout are going to be iron-related, rusty bits, that kind of stuff. And way down at the bottom, like less than 10, is going to be your hot rocks. So that gives you an idea. This thing is what it's telling you what the target is, even if you have discrimination turned off and you're in what they call essentially all metal mode. So you have the right-hand knob turned all the way to the click on the left, so that you're getting the no discrimination. And the last little indicator on the screen, the readout screen, is over in the lower left-hand corner. There's this little bar thing. It says Fe304. Fe304 is the chemical formula for magnetite, the mineral magnetite. It's magnetic iron-bearing mineral. And basically, that's reading out to tell you that it's seen a hot rock. It's seeing a hot rock. That readout generally only shows up when you hit a hot rock. And the more bars, it tells you how certain it is that what you're looking at is a hot rock. And that's really all for the screen and the operations panel. I mean, it's pretty simple. On the far left-hand side, you see a little thing there. That's a little cover plate for where headphone jacks stick into the side of the box.
So we've looked at the control panel. It's pretty basic. We talked a little bit about it. The next thing I want to talk about is just basic concepts of nugget detecting. And one of the things I want to talk about is, the detectors only react so deep. It depends on how big the nugget is. The bigger the nugget, the deeper the target can be detected. But with little tiny stuff, you're talking shallow. And so if you have the ground here and you have little tiny gold and you hold your detector coil up this high off the ground, you automatically won't be able to see it because the distance down to the target is too much. And so one of the things that everybody teaches is to go low and slow. So you keep your coil right at ground level and go slow. Now you don't have to go slow like this, and take forever to make one swing, but you don't want to do, that's not it either. It's just a careful swing, back and forth, back and forth. So at a moderate speed, not super fast, not super slow. And the detector actually works better and responds better to a target if you're not going too fast or if you're not going too super slow either. So a moderate speed. A lot of guys get excited and have a tendency to go too fast, especially if you've been doing coin and relic detecting, because coins and jewelry rings and that kind of stuff are humongous targets in the world of gold nugget detecting. With a gold nugget detector, you're looking for targets that weigh, a tenth of a gram, a quarter of a gram, a half a gram. I found some much larger nuggets last summer, but the bread and butter of nugget detecting is those quarter and half and 1 gram pieces of gold, and then even tenth of a gram pieces of gold. So you don't want to limit yourself, and that's another thing. Why buy this detector? Because people will tell me, I get messages on YouTube or Facebook or whatever saying, hey, I can get a metal detector on Amazon for $70. Why should I spend for these, for something like this? Well, okay, if you don't want to find those bread and butter nuggets, then yeah, if your goal is to walk away from gold and to miss it, then okay, you can spend the $70 and not find any gold. The problem is that those $70 detectors are not sensitive enough to be finding those tenth of a gram, quarter gram, half gram nuggets. They're made to find coins. So if you go over, say, a nickel, which weighs like 7 grams or something like that, no problem, it'll find it. And or a quarter or even a dime, which is a little smaller, but still no problem finding those. But if you want to limit yourself, then maybe so. But I don't recommend that you do that. Finding gold is hard enough without limiting yourself. And so this is a good detector really for the new guy who has a budget, doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money, wants to give it a try though, and it has the sensitivity to find good gold. When you're out metal detecting, you're looking for repeatable targets. So as you scan the coil, if this is your target, if you scan it over the coil, you want a target that will go beep, 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 beep over the target, right over it. And that gives you an indication that there's something really there. A lot of times metal detectors will, as I've mentioned, make some beeping and popping sounds. The idea that, we talked about is that you turn the gain down until you achieve a quiet level of detection and you don't have those beeping and popping sounds. So you want to look for repeatable targets. Those are the things that are going to be of interest. Now you need to be careful when you sweep your coil across the ground. You don't want to make an arc where you have the coil going like this, because in the center you'll be fine, but out here you're not detecting anything. Maybe a tree or something like that, and the tree doesn't have nuggets in it. So you want to keep the coil parallel with the ground and as close to the ground as you can. In fact, even scrubbing across the ground is good. We'll talk about that a little more later. But keep the coil low to the ground. That's important. The other thing that's important is the overlap of the target. So if you have, say, a target right here where my fist is, and you swing here and there, with a big V across, you never get the coil over the target. And so you need to control your swing and overlap a little bit. Let me show you a diagram and explain it further.
So the point of this diagram is to show that every sweep of your coil, you should overlap a little bit so that you know that there's not any targets that you missed swinging over. That you need to cover the ground completely by overlapping a little bit.
Next, let's talk about ground minerals and soil mineralization, hot rocks, and things that go in that category. So iron is actually the 4th most common element in the Earth's crust. Roughly 5% of the soil, of the crust, is made of iron. And I don't mean metallic iron like, a nail or piece of metal or something like that. I mean minerals that have iron in the chemical makeup of the mineral. So you can have various minerals. Most people are familiar with magnetite or hematite. These are both iron oxides, combination of iron as a chemical with oxygen as a chemical. And so you get a mineral that contains iron. Well, some of these minerals still have magnetic type of properties, even though it's not metallic iron, it's iron mineral. It still has metallic properties. And believe it or not, the coil may respond to those, the coil of your metal detector may respond to those iron minerals more than a gold nugget that you might, if it's a smaller gold nugget, that it might go over. And so metal detectors have to be able to balance that out and cancel the effect of the mineralization. Now the gold bug tracker, it's made to track out and cancel that mineralization. And so one of the advantages of this is you don't have to worry about that. Although you may go over things called hot rocks. And so you have soil which has a certain amount of mineralization in it, but then you may encounter also individual rocks that have a lot higher level of iron minerals in them, and your detector may see those, and those are called hot rocks. And we'll talk about dealing with hot rocks in a bit. Now, as I've mentioned, the size of a target determines the depth that it can be seen at. The smaller the target, the shorter the depth it's going to be seen. Big old targets can be seen at greater depths. The maximum sensitivity for the tracker is around 1/10 of a gram, which means it'll detect birdshot and small bits of lead, and of course, 1/10 of a gram small nuggets, no problem. But it won't detect them at a real great depth. An inch or something like that will be about the maximum depth for small targets like that. The target's a little bit larger, of course, it can see it at a little bit more depth. Now, one of the things that you're going to find when you go out into the gold fields, if you go to an area that's already been mined in the past, you're going to find that there's a lot of iron trash. When I'm out metal detecting, I dig far, far, far more iron trash than I do pieces of gold nuggets. Occasionally I get special days where I'm in an area where there's a real minimum of trash, and I'll actually dig more nuggets than I dig trash. But that is very much the exception and not the rule. Things that are iron trash include, of course, nails, little bits of wire, bits of a can or other sheet metal. There's just so much of that out there that, you're gonna run into it. You just can't avoid it. And, we'll talk more about how to use the discriminator on this and when to dig it all and when to use the discriminator. We'll get to that in just a minute. But you also will have trash objects that are non-ferrous, so that aren't made of iron. And things like lead bullets, buckshot of all sizes, from bigger shot to shotgun, little bird shot for a shotgun. There's all different sizes of lead, fragments of bullets, and all different sorts of things. So lots of lead. Brass casings are also very common. So when the person shoots, they don't pick up their brass because they don't reload. And, so brass is out there. There's also bits of aluminum, like foil and that kind of stuff. And occasionally copper or other metals as well. But the non-ferrous target we're looking for is gold, okay? And if you put yourself in the right area, you'll find some gold. Now, I gotta tell you, I tell all the guys and gals that gold is not common. And even if you go out to an area that's been mined in the past and was productive, you may not be finding a lot of gold. It may be it's been hit before, maybe by other detectorists. Maybe if you're in a new place, the old timers didn't intentionally leave gold behind. So, and there's a reason why it's, as I'm recording this, getting close to $3,000 an ounce US. It's valuable because it's rare and beautiful. And so we're after the gold, but we're going to find a lot of other stuff along the way. Sometimes you'll find interesting stuff. I found a few coins over the years. I found a derelict, broken down pocket watch one time. I found a few other interesting things over the years. But most of the stuff you'll find is going to be trash. You just need to understand and be patient. The gold will come. Now we're going to come to how and when to use discrimination. Now, a lot of people will tell you, hey, dig it all. It depends on what detector you have. A lot of detectors don't have very good discrimination, so you're kind of locked into dig it all. And most of the guys that proclaim dig it all, if they get into a really nasty trash area where there's just trash everywhere, they'll walk away from that area. Because everybody has their limit of patience. And when you get to an area that's just intense trash, you literally, dig 1 trash, 2 trash, 3 trash, 4 trash, 5 trash, 6 trash, 7 trash. You start getting up to 15, 20 pieces of trash in a row, and it's all in an area that's small. People will just walk away from that. If you can have a detector with good discrimination, you may be able to fish through that nasty trash area and find some gold in it. I certainly have done that in different places with my detectors where I've fished through nasty trash areas and come up with some good gold because other guys have walked away from that. So yes, if you're in an area where there's relatively few targets, go ahead and dig it all. Yes, that's a good idea. If you find yourself in an intense trash area, yeah, you probably should use your discrimination. Now, in using discrimination, you need to use it right. And I've done a whole video on it, and I'll put a link up here to that video. But I'll tell you the important thing that you need to understand about discrimination. And that is that there's actually 3 possibilities. Most guys say, well, there's just 2. It's either ferrous or non-ferrous, right? That's 2 possibilities. No, there's a third other one. And because they don't accept the third, they don't use discrimination properly. See, the detector can tell you 3 different things. Ferrous, yes. Non-ferrous, yes. And the third one is, I don't know. And that's what happens when you go over your detector and it bounces around and you get a ferrous reading and a non-ferrous reading and a ferrous reading and a non-ferrous reading, and it bounces back and forth, or you may get 2 ferrous and then 1 non-ferrous and then a ferrous and then non-ferrous, and a couple in a row maybe of one or the other, and it just bounces around. That's your detector saying, well, I don't know what this is. And in order for the detector to really determine what it is, it needs to get a good lock on the signal. It needs to get a good signal. If the signal's a little weak, or it's weird or something, it may give you this answer, I don't know. And what you need to do is when you have the non-ferrous, you need to dig all of those. You have to dig those because those can be gold. If you have a non-ferrous, or you have a ferrous target and it's solidly on ferrous, you may decide not to dig the solidly on ferrous. We're going to talk about numbers in just a minute, but you have to accept that if the detector bounces around, you need to dig on that. And I've had targets where it bounces around, I dig on it, and eventually it locks in when you get close enough, and it may lock in to say, it's ferrous trash, it's iron. Or you may get in there and lock in and it may say gold. I've found some really nice nuggets that at the top were, the detector bounced around, it didn't know what it was. And I dug down on it, and as I got closer to it, the detector locked in and said, this is non-ferrous, non-ferrous, non-ferrous. And then I dug it out, and it was gold. So you need to understand the 3 different things. I did a video where I kind of tested the detector out and kind of did a demonstration of it, and you may have seen this video before. It's not very long, so take a look. I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration in the field and show you what the detector does and how it works out in the field. Okay, let's try out the gold bug and listen to how it sounds on some different targets. Now I have it in non-discrimination, or what they call all metal mode, but even in all metal, it gives you some indication on the screen of how the detector's doing. So I'm going to run it over a little piece of iron, a part of a square nail, and it gives that sound, and it's telling me that that target is ferrous. And let me show you a picture of that.
So here's the screen as it's going over that bit of a square nail, and you can see the score is 24. In general, just as a note, targets below about 40 are going to be mostly iron, and targets much above 40, especially above 45, are going to more likely be non-ferrous. Now, it could be lead or it could be gold, but it's going to be something that isn't iron.
Our next test target that we're doing is a little piece of magnetite, a hot rock. And it's giving all the hot rock signals. The signal as actually comes after the target swings over. So if I swing over this way, see if when I'm passing this way, it sounds like the target's here. When I'm going this way, it sounds like the target's here. The truth is it's in the middle. So that's a hot rock. And it's a really strong one, even a really strong hot rock is not sounding off that loud.
Here is the screen as it's going over that hot rock. You can see it scores a 1, which is way below the 40 plus threshold for a non-ferrous. So the hot rocks score way at the bottom end of the scale.
Then this is a little piece of lead. And it's indicating definitely that it's a non-ferrous target, and I'll show you the screen here.
So here's the screen while it's going over the little bit of lead, which of course is a non-ferrous target, just like gold, and it scores 48. And this is a little small piece of lead. And so you can see that the non-ferrous targets score much higher. Like I say, above about 45, 40, 45, you're going to dig it because it's going to be non-ferrous. And you can't really tell the difference between lead and gold on this or any other VLF detector. Because gold could be of any size and essentially lead can be of any size too.
And finally, our last target is a bit of wire, and it also is indicating, like that bit of square nail, that it's a ferrous target, a piece of iron trash.
And here's the screen while I'm going over that little bit of iron wire. It scores 19, again, a low number, similar to the 24 that I got for the piece of square nail. 19 means it's basically a little bit smaller iron target than was the piece of square nail. Now, with all of these discrimination readings, you have to get right over the target, well centered over the target to get the accurate reading. If you're off to the side or just barely going by it, you might get a false reading. But when you're right over the target, that's when you get your best and most accurate discrimination reading.
And I have this in all metal mode, and it's still getting an indication. So it's really not 100% true all metal. But when you go in all metal, what you get is, or when you go in discrimination, you get some of those targets cut out. So here's our original square nail. I swing over it, I don't get a target. Here's the hot rock, I swing over it, no indication. Here's our piece of lead. It definitely indicates it's a non-ferrous target. And then finally, our little bit of wire. Again, no target. So in discrimination mode, it does pretty good. If you're in a super duper trashy area, I mean, where there's just trash everywhere, and it's all the rusty iron trash, you might try hunting in discrimination, but I would recommend not doing that. I recommend going in the non-discrimination all metal mode, simply because it's more sensitive. You lose a little bit of sensitivity switching to discrimination mode. Well, I hope you liked the look at the screens and the sounds of the detector. I mean, like I say, I'm real happy with this and proud to recommend it. And like I say, High Plains Prospectors is a great place to buy your detecting equipment from. And in fact, that Chris Ralph discount code will give you a 5% discount on anything that they have, on all of their merchandise. So, take a look and see what you think. There's a lot that they have to offer, a lot of different metal detectors, from this all the way up to the real expensive ones. prospecting, pans, sluice boxes and high bankers and stuff. They have it all. So take a look and think about this detector, because it's actually a really good one for the new guy. Okay, so you've seen me do a little bit of a demonstration on the readouts for the gold bug tracker. Let me show you a more extended of what typical readouts are. Now, I say these as typical because they can vary a little bit, but let's take a look at a chart of what different targets would sound like or show up on the discrimination system for the gold bug tracker.
So here's some typical target ID readouts for the gold bug tracker. First, I've got the ferrous or iron related. This is, either rusty steel or hot rocks, that sort of thing. So hot rocks and ground mineralization will generally read from 1 to 10. Iron trash, which can come, of course, in various sizes, will usually read from 10 or from 15 to 35. Now, it's possible to get a really huge trash iron target, like a piece of sheet metal or a bucket or something like that, and those might read higher than 35. But generally, most of the trash you're going to find is going to be in that range. And then considering the non-ferrous targets, these are targets made of brass, lead, gold, aluminum, copper, and other metals. And the first gold, it goes all the way from 44 to 90, because gold, of course, can be any size or any shape, from very tiny to very large. And you don't want to walk away from a piece of gold. That if you're lucky enough to find one, you don't want to walk away from it. So any of the non-ferrous targets, you absolutely have to dig those. Gold, like I say, can be of any size. So foil, usually smallish, 47, 48. Shotgun pellets, and there's various sizes of shotgun pellets, 45 to 50. Lead bullets, again, various sizes from a small 22 bullet up to big rifle shots. U.S. nickel, 58, aluminum pull tabs, it depends on the which tab we're talking about, the old beaver tail ones or the newer modern ones. Aluminum screw bottle caps, copper pennies and clad dimes, and silver dimes, obviously the same. But generally speaking, the newer zinc pennies will read a little less, more in the 60s or 70s or something like that. A U.S. quarter, 85, 86, 50-cent piece, 87, silver dollar, if you're lucky enough to find an old U.S. silver dollar. And I've been in places, I've never found one, but I've seen other guys find old U.S. silver dollars in old mining areas, because that was the currency of the age. But in any case, this gives you a good feeling for what your display panel is going to read when you go over various targets.
Finally, I want to talk about important accessories. One of them that I really think anybody who's interested in this detector should get is this little black thing right here. This is what's called a coil cover. And basically, I've recommended you run this thing on the ground. It's going to scrape against the ground. And if you do that on the coil and you wear through the plastic, you can damage the coil to where you need to buy a new one before you can use it. That's why almost always the guys who do this a lot will get a coil cover. And so when you wear through this little black coil cover and the white from the underneath coil starts to show, you know that you need to get rid of the coil cover and get a new one. But a new coil cover costs $11 and a new coil is well over $100. So it's easier to just replace the coil covers. And so that's why I recommend that you get it. Another accessory I think you ought to get, or I think at least seriously consider, is this larger coil that goes on the thing. Now this will see a little deeper, but it loses a lot of sensitivity for the smallest gold nuggets. That's why the thing comes with a little coil. But with this larger coil, the gold bug tracker becomes a really good coin and relic type machine. Hunt for jewelry and coins in parks and schools and that kind of thing. It's basically a multi-purpose type of detector. With the small coil, it's great for going for gold. With the large coil, it's great for going for coins and jewelry and stuff like that at local parks and schools. So this is something I think you should seriously consider too. The detector runs on a single 9-volt battery, and another thing you might think of is a rechargeable battery. I use rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. They're what's recommended for rechargeable batteries for these. You can get those at a lot of different places. And so, you know, I've bought rechargeable batteries for most of my detectors because I hate buying and then throwing away batteries, because these things do go through batteries, and, you know, it needs the power to sense and detect objects and tell you. Now, in all this talk about nugget detecting, I'm not trying to tell you that finding gold with a metal detector is super easy, but it is something that no old timer ever had anything like this. And there's gold out there to be found. I've proved it, and it takes, you know, knowledge and skill in order to be able to go out and find gold with these things. And so I recommend that you get my book. You know, I've got a book, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it in a few minutes, but getting the book will really help you give your skill, bump up your skill for finding gold. Because the whole thing of nugget detecting, you have two things. One is you need to know how to operate your metal detector. The other thing is you need to have the skill to go out and find the gold. The metal detector will tell you when you put the coil over a nugget that's shallow enough and big enough for the metal detector to see, but, you know, the metal detector isn't going to tell you where to go, or even when you go out to a certain place, well, detect over there or detect over there. You know, you need to have that skill to say, oh, that looks pretty good, I think I'm going to go over there. And just the random choice is not the best. Knowing what you're doing is significantly improves your odds. So recommend buying my book, read it, join a club, join a prospecting club. Another thing that people ask me a lot about is, you know, where should I go, you know, and there's claims all over the place. How can I go someplace and know that I'm not causing any problem? And that's why I say join a local prospecting club. They almost always have some sort of access to claims that you can go to and check it out. You don't have to become the president of the club. You don't have to spend hours with other people. You know, just join the club, go out, check out the claims. They give you a place to go. Sometimes, you know, spending some time with some of the guys. Usually these clubs have some experienced guys. And if you're new, spending some time with an experienced guy that you can ask him questions, that ain't a bad thing. So consider joining a club. That's my recommendations. Now, for the moment, as I tape this video, the only people that have this for sale is my friends at High Plains. And High Plains Prospectors, you can Google their name, just put High Plains Prospectors, and if you do buy anything from them, whether it's this metal detector or a gold pan, copy of my book or whatever, you know, put in the discount code Chris Ralph, CHRISRALPH, no space, all caps, and then, you know, you'll get a discount and I'll get credit for it. So it works for everybody, because you'll get something off your order and I'll get something for it too. And like I say, for the moment, they're the only ones who have this really great detector. Eventually it'll be at all kinds of other dealers. They'll have it as well. But for the moment, as I tape this video, they're the only ones who have it on file. Now, I mentioned my book, and I wrote this book. It's called Fistful of Gold, because that's what I want you to be able to go out and find, is some fistful of gold. And it's going to increase your skill. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my book right now. This is my book, Fistful of Gold. It's an encyclopedia of everything you need to know to go out and find gold for yourself. It distills down my 45 years of experience out in the field prospecting, as well as my degree in mine engineering. It's, like I say, an encyclopedia. There's a lot to it. It's over 250,000 words long, hundreds of pages with hundreds of illustrations, teaching you what you need to know about geology, about mining districts, about techniques of finding gold. It covers metal detectors, sluicing, panning, dry washing, high bankers, you know, you name it, it's covered in there. It talks some about platinum and diamonds, but it's mostly about gold, because gold is more widespread. It is not so much a book about where to find gold, but a book about how to find gold. Because even if you have a location where gold was mined in the past and you go out there, well, where should you look to be successful in your prospecting, to find the gold that's there? This is the book that's going to tell you that information. I spent most of 10 years writing this book, so I thought a long time about it. It's got, like I say, lots of information and lots of illustrations, and I've had results from people who bought it. It's available on Amazon, but I recommend buying it through High Plains Prospectors, and I'll put a link in the description for buying this book through them. They have a better price than Amazon, and I have a special deal that I'll tell you a little bit more about, where you can get a 5% discount from the price even with that. On Amazon, the book rates a 4.7 out of 5, which means that of all the people that have bought it, they've been really highly satisfied, and I think you, if you buy my book, will be just as highly satisfied as well. Now let's talk a little bit more about High Plains Prospectors. They're a prospecting shop, a mail order prospecting shop that I've partnered with. The deal is that I can get you a 5% discount, a coupon code, and I'm going to put the code to that right here. It's just Chris Ralph, all caps with no space between Chris and Ralph. You put that in there as a discount code and you'll get 5% off their already really good prices. I think it's a great deal where you win by getting a discount, I get a little percentage of that, and they get new business. So if you need prospecting supplies, High Plains is really the way to go. And I'll put information, like I say, in the description more about how you can work with them, because I'm working with them. They really are great guys, a great company. For even more information, I also have a website, and I'm going to show you my webpage and talk a little bit more about that right now.
This is my webpage. It's located at NevadaOutbackGems.com. You can Google it, or I have a link down in the description below. But there's lots of information here, miscellaneous stuff, pictures, some historic information as well, stories. It's got a lot of great fun stuff. You'll probably be interested in it.
Now, on all of my YouTube videos, I encourage you guys to ask questions. If you have thoughts, comments, suggestions for things that I ought to look at in my videos, things that you want to find out more about, and I answer 100% of my questions. There's not very many YouTubers out there that answer 100% of their questions. I'm one of the few. And so I will do my best to answer what you have. I mean, I only can write so much. Sometimes the answer is something where I'm going to recommend that you buy the book and read about it. I also ask that you subscribe to my channel, click the bell notification so that every time I come out with a new video, you'll be able to watch it. And like I say, I cover a huge amount of topics. I also have 250 videos that I've already done. And so you can go back through my catalog of videos on YouTube. I'm sure there'll be many videos there that you'll want to take a look at, especially if you have any interest in gold or platinum, diamonds, gemstones, geology, and that sort of stuff. My YouTube site is going to be right up your alley. So I'll see you again real soon. We'll be out in the field and back in the office at the whiteboard, and whether we're looking at gold or platinum, diamonds, gemstones, or other interesting geology, it's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it, and we'll see you again real soon.